Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, and the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Sean.
Gentlemen, welcome to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I apologize to those who were ready for me on Monday night. I couldn't make the show, had other things going on, but still going to cover some of the same topics because it's only 2 days later and somehow it's all relevant. We're going to talk about the whole McIver indicting of Representative McIver. There's probably a better way of saying that. And just some of the things that have happened since then. Everything that involved Biden, cancer, and the media's coverage of all of that. Zeldin Rubio on the Hill, if we can get to it, and I have some quick hits to cover as well. You're going to see tonight is very much a blast about the media. I apologize. I am starting the chat. I was late on it. I'm sorry. It started. The chat started. Canadian Heavy Hall's already in the chat. Mission Ready Men's all in the chat. Good evening, gentlemen. But yeah, so tonight's going to be pretty media heavy, and you're going to see, that's better. You're going to see a lot of just how much of this crap, Ricky's in the chat room. How much of this crap is also media's fault? And I'm going to start with the biggest story of the day is the South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa, visited the White House. Oh boy. Oh man. You know when you're like, you see somebody on a game show, and especially like a Saturday Night Live game show, where they're like, oh, they talk about like the most embarrassing moment of your life, and somebody's like, hey, Mike's in the chat, welcome, Mike. And somebody's like, oh, well, it was this moment. And they're like, well, what about this moment? And you see the look on their face as the TV comes out. That was President Ramaphosa today. I cannot imagine if you are a foreign leader and you're not tight with Trump and you have issues going on in your country and you're coming to us begging for money, especially, I cannot imagine the feeling of dread that this must bring you. I mean, you go back to Trump and Vance with Zelensky, and there's been a couple other ones too. I think a couple of Keir Starmers, there was a couple little zingers. There was a couple of zingers with that pinhead up to the north of us that Canadian Heavy Haul knows really well, unfortunately. And then, of course, we get to this. Now, for those who don't know, there's been an ongoing, quiet sort of genocide, if you will, in South Africa of the white farmers. And there has been not a lot of coverage of it because, well, media plays games. And I'll tell you right now, if this was anywhere else, it would be all over the news. All over the news. 100% Trump was savage for this. But for whatever reason, they're not covering this. Now, before we get any further into this, you might ask yourself, what is a genocide? The definition of a genocide is violent attacks with a specific intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. Keep that in mind. Because unlike a lot of leftists that seem to think that there is a specific number that has to be met to equal a genocide, That's just not true. It's the goal and systematically taking those people out, the victims out. And it's been going on. The white farmers have been targeted repeatedly. And it's been leaking out here and there. And actually, I know Canadian Heavy Haul has a friend personally from South Africa who's spoken to him about this. I know it's been in other places, but it hasn't caught. I will say, if the paint job of the farmers were any other color, this probably would have caught way, way, way more attention. Mission Ready Man said, I said on my show that what's going on over there fits the definition. 100% does. 100% does. They want to act like it doesn't, because if you look at the history of South Africa and the atrocities that were done there to the black South Africans before Nelson and Mandela, and there was some horrific things that happened. Yes, just like our history in this country has some dark moments. Okay. But one of the things that we do as a society is when you have a group that was victimized and then they come into power or they come into their own and wherever, and it's not just in this country, in South Africa, this happens all over the place. When they start doing bad things, nobody seems to want to call them out. And I'm not saying the government is necessarily behind this, but it's been encouraged by the government. As a matter of fact, as I scroll down here through all my little files that I want to play this evening, that as BZ says, I won't get to half these. I won't. But I have a video of the now South African president saying, essentially, take the farms back from the white farmers. And of course, it's all the way down in my list. And where is it? I had this up first, and then I switched tabs and started scrolling. And when I came back, I forgot where it was. It's in here somewhere, but it's out there, and I tagged it. Maybe it's in my other file. And my point is, oh, here it is. This is exactly the files. Here it is. This is the now President Ramaphosa of South Africa.
The question of land, the land of...
Wow.
The question of land, the land of our forefathers and our foremothers must return to our people without any fail and without any payment of compensation.
Did you hear that? The land of our forefathers and our foremothers must be returned to our people without any compensation. Think about that. Hey, Lost Wanderers in the chat. Think about those words. The land must be returned to our people without any compensation. This is the now president of that country. What do you think that tells the people? It tells the people, well, if the president wants us to do it, maybe we should start going after those land and start systematically killing the people that owns it. Who owns the white farmer land? The white farmers. Who, by the way, grow a majority of food in South Africa. Yeah, Trump should have played that. Mike says Ramaphosa. Yeah, and the only thing, I have it here somewhere, the only thing, and this is where the media started going off on this, because all of these social media posts from the usual suspects, Reuters, CNN, it's always Trump ambushed the South African president with blah, 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 blah. Trump alleged this has happened, blah, 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 blah. Unproven, unfactual, yada, 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 yada. And Trump was playing videos from inside South Africa of it occurring, of people calling for it, of government leaders calling from it. And the agricultural minister for South Africa, who was present today with Trump and Ramaphosa, acknowledged it was a problem. acknowledged it. The agricultural minister, he's in charge of the farms. That's kind of important when you're trying to kill off all the white farmers. And then he brought South African golfers in, the South African president did, who were white. And one of them said that he had a family member that was killed that was a farmer. But the media ignored all of that. All of it. And they got mad because Trump showed this.
These are burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000 of white farmers. And those cars are lined up to pay love on a Sunday morning. Each one of those white things you see is a cross. And there's approximately 1,000 of them. They're all white farmers, the family of white farmers. And those cars aren't driving. They're stopped there to pay respects to their family member who's killed. And it's a terrible sight. I've never seen anything like it.
Some of the delegation that came with the South African president turned their backs to the video. They refused to watch it. Why am I channeling Jerry Seinfeld? It's a horrible Seinfeld impression. Don't ever make me do that again. And as bad as the South African president looks because of this, and as bad as the situation is, and as little as it's being reported, I'm going to tell you exactly why mainstream media attacked Trump with all of these words of doubt in what he was doing and what he was saying. And it's quite simple. He was exposing it to the world, and they were covering it up again. Because as we'll talk about later with Biden and even the McIver, they love to only tell you what they think you need to know or what they want you to know. Anything that boosts their narrative, they're going to talk to you about and tell you about. Anything that goes against like the whole world narrative, and it may call out some bad leaders in poor countries or whatever. This the simple fact of the matter is mainstream media, not just in America, but all over the world, Associated Press, Reuters, all those other places, they absolutely do not tell you the whole story. I believe this is the South African golfer who, yep, this is it, who explained how his family was killed.
I grew up in an area in South Africa that is a farmland area, Polokwane, and there is some issues up there. Obviously, my dad was a property developer as well as a part-time farmer, and yeah, some of these buddy farmers got killed. The farm is still going. My brothers run it, but it's a constant battle with farms they're trying to burn the farms down to chase you away.
That was a person that the South African delegates brought with them, who said, yes, it's happened, and yes, it's a problem. And where's the media? Where is the media? They're going out and telling you how Trump was so wrong to ambush President Ramaphosa, who's here asking for money. And essentially, what Trump is doing with all of this, which a negotiator is doing, is saying, hey, you need to fix this before we'll give you what you need. That's how it's done. The irony is those crackers were absolutely supposed to refute what Trump was saying. But it's incredible how the media runs from it. And I only saved a couple of them because it was the same thing over and over and over. They were just essentially denying it. And just like they denied the whole Biden cognitive decline story, just like they ignore so many things. Or, as we'll talk about later, when somebody screws up and they're part of the blessed party on the left, they run to their defense and they put them all over the cameras, all over the channels, all over the news, and they allow them without any real pushback to prove their point. Because, as Rush used to call them, the low information voters just assume that mainstream media is always doing the right thing. No matter how much evidence we have, they assume that. And of course, Scott Jennings, who is just single-handedly, I didn't know Scott Jennings before Trump took office. I'll be the first to admit it. I think I heard his name a few times, but I didn't really pay attention. He wasn't on my radar. He had no reason to be on my radar. Scott Jennings is single-handedly taking down leftists on CNN, and it's not even a layup for him anymore. Like, I don't know what is easier than a layup. Don't ask Angel Reese. She doesn't know either because she can't hit layups. But he is just devouring them. And here he goes once again, and he just uses facts to annihilate them.
The genocide or not, the facts are white farmers in South Africa have been murdered. A lot of people have tried to cover this up. A lot of people in, I think, media in the United States have tried to cover it up. Obviously, the South African government doesn't want to talk about it. So it was kind of a boss move for Donald Trump to roll that television in there today. And I think even the agriculture minister in the Oval Office confirmed that these people are, in fact, being murdered. So my question is, if it's not a genocide today, how many do we want to let get murdered so that people around here can be satisfied? Okay, now it's a genocide. Let's let a few more. I don't understand. We're talking about 50-something people they were trying to let in, and everybody's losing their mind after we let in 20 million illegal immigrants over the last several years. The president is trying to prevent genocide from happening any further to these people. They are clearly being discriminated against. Some have been murdered. This was an interesting spectacle in the Oval Office today, but it had to happen because I don't think anybody was telling the truth.
100%. Nobody's telling the truth. As a matter of fact, I know it first came up a little bit last year before, like when the election was in full bore. I know it popped up a little bit. And the only reason I remember it popping up back then is because Kyle in the chat, Canadian Heavy Haul, mentioned it to me in a personal conversation, over an article. And that was last year, maybe it was even before last year. So it's been going on for a long time. If you look at the numbers, it goes back to 2014 is when it really starts to kick underway. Now, I do have to say that as much as I admire the bravery of the agricultural minister who actually admitted it, he's going to get fired soon. And somebody said, oh, he's with the party. No. We know how political winds blow. That guy, I mean, fired is probably the nicest thing that's going to happen to him. But that has yet to be seen as to what's going to happen long term. And by the way, if you see me double clicking, you see pictures come on and come off, the program that I use is acting slow. So I think I'm missing a click and then I double click and it pops up. So just bear with me if it happens again. So that's the theme though tonight is countries don't want to talk about it because it's icky. Countries also don't want to talk about it because South Africa is another country that the world has poured a ton of money into over the years. And now the word genocide is coming up in a country that, Nelson Mandela, the world was supposed to change. It was all supposed to bring us together. And here we are, 30, 40, 35 years? How long ago was Mandela became president? It was 35 years, I think, 40 years. And now we're talking about a potential genocide in that same country against people who have a different paint job. They're white. And they cannot have that be a headline. They just can't. The same thing happened. The same thing occurred in South Africa, occurred in Rhodesia. Farmers killed, farms sold, and then a country starved. Yeah, BZ's 100% right. And that wasn't people of a different paint job. And like I said, the white farmers, I think they said, make 86% of the food. Hey, Phantom's in the chat room. Good evening. 86% of the food that is feeding that country. And they're burning the farms on top of murdering the farmers. So literally, not literally, but as close to shooting yourself in your own, it's like going to your pantry and lighting it on fire. and then tomorrow bitching that you don't have any food. Because as BZ said, if it keeps going, starvation will come. And then we'll all be sending them food. And then we'll be supporting them. And then, I mean, I don't know if you remember growing up the starvation that occurred in Africa. It was on TV commercials all the time, right? And there's been headway made. Is it perfect? No, nothing's perfect. But there's been headway made. And now, because of some power thing or perceived lack of power, you want to end that. And I'm not saying that the Black South Africans can't farm, but if they were just trying to remove the farmers and compensate from them, it's still shitty because they should be allowed to do, live their life. But okay, it sucks, but at least it would be a little bit less disgusting. It'd still be disgusting, just not as disgusting. But no, as the president said, they want to take those farms away, and the media runs to the defense. It's amazing how the media runs to the defense of poor behavior all the time. I know I've said it. I know Big E said it. I know BZ said it. I know Joe said it. I know Rick said it, and other people in the chat room and other broadcasters. Whenever mainstream media tells you one thing, believe the exact fucking opposite. Just believe it. Because they have lost, and as I get into the Jake Tapper thing later on, they've just lost all credibility whatsoever. Why? I don't, and that's what Jake Tapper's doing, is he's trying to gain back that credibility, but it's gone. It is gone. It was like the NBC reporter trying to change the subject while you had the South African president and Trump in the White House today giving interviews, and he starts asking about something else to try to change the subject. And then when Trump snapped, the media was like, "Whoa, he's not taking questions from NBC. He was rude. He was disrespectful." No, it was rude and disrespectful to try to change a subject when you're obviously very focused on South Africa. And it's not like Caroline's afraid to take questions in the press briefing. She doesn't just repeat cited things in a book like the last one did, KGP. So if you have questions, you can ask him. Trump talks to the media all the time, going to the plane, coming back from the plane. He's not afraid. He's not afraid. So why would you do that? And the answer is simple. Trying to save the South African president, trying to keep the story under wraps. That's the only reason why you would change direction in an interview where you're talking very specifically about a country. Lost Wanderer says, without the white farmers, South Africa would have turned out just like Anasazi. Like to know more about Anasazi? Turn into the Sunday night to his show at 8 p.m. on KLRN Radio, who is simulcasting this show and is wonderful friends of ours. So that was, like I said, it was like Scott Jennings said, it was a boss move, savage. Trump just absolutely hit it out of the ballpark. And if I was a foreign leader coming to the White House for a state meeting, oh boy, would I be nervous. Before we go on, look, we're 20 YouTube subscribers away. 20 from hitting 500. We just need 20. And we're talking about what we'll do for the 500th follower. We're going to get a little gift package, a little care package together. We'll pay attention to who it is. If you're the 500th follower, you can always comment on the video, hey, I was number 500. However, 500 followers for us would be enormous. It opens up so many other things that we can do with YouTube. And just go to youtube.com and search SHR Media. You'll see the logo that's right here. BZ's just throwing up article after article after article, but it's not mainstream article. That's the problem about the South African genocide. But as I was saying, it opens up so much more for us, so much more reach, so much more ability, and it does. It opens up the ability for us to make a couple bucks here and there because we don't get paid. Myself, BZ, Joe, Big E, we don't get paid to do this. We do this out of love for our country. We do this out of love for defending our nation and calling out the bad actors. We do this as a thing of passion. We do this in our own time. I think We made $12 over a course of 3 months on our podcast downloads, and that doesn't even begin to pay for the programs that we use. So we do this as a labor of love to try to get a different independent voice out there about what's going on in this country and abroad. Not canned, not the same repetition, none of that shit. We do this with honesty. We do this with as much integrity as I could possibly have. And we do this with passion because we care. We care about this nation. We care about this. These stories get out. These stories gets covered, and that our opinions get covered. And yeah, if you don't like my opinion, you can turn it off. But maybe you'll like my opinion next week. Come back and check it out. And if you don't like my opinion, you can go into the chat room at YouTube and tell me why I'm an a-hole. And I'll probably post it because I post all the chat in YouTube. That's your chance. The YouTube chat is your chance to become part of the show. Part of a show. And we only need 20 more. 24-hour telethon for SHR and KLRN radio. We do a subscriber telethon. That would be awesome. I'm going to unsubscribe and wait till we're at $4.99. Go ahead. Look, I'm not saying that can't happen. That can happen. But, and that was Canadian Heavy Haul who said that in chat. But Canadian Heavy Haul, remember, I can see who the 500th subscriber is. So I'm just saying, you might get a special gift. Oh, man. Speaking of the media and freaking out, this whole thing with Representative McIver is just incredible. So you all saw the video. I'm not going to play the video again. She pushed with and struck with her forearms a federal officer. 18 USC 111A1 for alleged assault on federal officers. It's on video. You know, it's so funny because I remember 10 years ago when the left was calling for body cams and cameras everywhere and body cams and cameras everywhere. Yet, and now that it's being used against a Democrat representative, they're shitting chickens and they're acting like it doesn't happen. Literally watch with your own eyes as it happens. You can see her do it. And again, the media, Trump's using the DOJ. Trump's doing this. Trump's doing that. And now that Nancy Mace has filed to have her expel her from Congress, they're all crying foul. Maybe do a 9-hour show for the big 500. Yeah, we could just swap off one day. And BZ's still posting all the South African articles, but it's not enough. That's the problem. It's not the right people are reporting it. There's not a big enough reach. Well, Cheetah. The other thing you guys could do is make second accounts and just subscribe with that. It's if you're really looking for some sort of SHR swag, I'm not saying that's out of the realm of possibility. You can still do that. So there are different ways. We'll get there. We're excited to get there. Hopefully it'll help expand our reach and go in there. So yeah, shitting chickens. What, you've never heard that before? Shitting a chicken? So anyhow, now we're here and she's been indicted. And by the way, as I said before, Nancy Mace filed a resolution to expel her. They didn't complain when the resolution was filed against George Santos. And by the way, neither did I. George Santos needed to go. I don't care if he was a Republican. George Santos did a lot of shady shit and needed to go. Right? So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. This is fair ball. That's all this is. Fair. And of course, the left is all upset. They're trying to say, it's targeting and they're going after her because of this. And her whole defense was, I'm just doing my job. Oh, and don't forget the stickers. That's right, Joe. We'll have stickers. McIver's whole defense is, I was just doing my job. I had to go represent the people. You can hold your rally. You can hold a peaceful protest. You can do a lot of things legally as a state representative as a federal representative. I, even if I disagree, will not begrudge you for having a protest or going to inspect it as they were invited to do. But no, you guys began pushing and shoving, trying to get yourself in. And then Yeah, George Santos, that's a good point, BZ. George Santos was convicted of nothing at the time of his expulsion, and we didn't have everything on video. I'm not saying that the prosecution didn't have evidence, and obviously they did. They convicted him, and rightfully so. But this was on evidence, right? Our video for evidence. It's just the fact that she's in denial, like, at least turn around and be like, yeah, I did that. I did that because I'm standing up for the people I believe I have to stand up for. But she's not, and nobody else is doing that either. They're trying to turn her into a hero, right? You're not a hero when you blast a federal officer in the face. When they're literally just making sure you don't get into a detention facility. You can protest in front all you want. You just can't come into a detention facility, a federal or otherwise. I'll tell you right now, if she went up to any regular jail and said, I'm a federal U.S. representative and I demand to go in and see the prisoners at 3:00 in the morning, they'd tell her to go pound sand. You don't just get to go in. It's a secure facility. There are procedures, there are rules. And as a member of the House, if she had actually, I'm going over, I'm sorry. If she had actually filed the paperwork, they probably would have just let her in. I'm up against a break. I'm going to continue this on the other side right here in the SHR.
Welcome to Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch Reaver of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
And welcome back to the Edge of Liberty and the SHR Media Network, simulcast with our wonderful friends over at KLRN. Jersey Joe said it looked nowhere and doesn't say anything about assault as part of her oversight. That is correct. In the heat of the moment, my actions were unbecoming of my position. How hard was that? Says the Lost Wonder. That's right. You could have absolutely just spoke honestly. Decorum. Phantom here made it 481. Thank you, Soul the Phantom. 481 subscribers. We're 19 away now. They did the tour, but it was stopped because of the mayor. Yeah, the mayor of Newark who ducked charges. I don't know why that happened. I try to be mature enough to wait for an explanation, but I don't understand why that happened. He's going to run for governor of New Jersey, too, and he's probably going to get a big boost now. Oh, yeah, it's the whole. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the more the merrier. Getting me there to 500. I'll take anything I can, Lost Wanderer. Anything I can. We're not shy about begging. Seriously. But moving on. So she gets indicted. And that, for those who don't know how somebody gets indicted, is essentially they present the evidence to a jury, and the jury says, yeah, it sounds like she did it, so let's proceed with charges. I mean, that's a dumbed down, watered down version, but that's the long and short. So she's on CNN, and she's obviously taking this very seriously. And this is something that I don't understand that young representatives are trying to do. They're trying to put themselves in a place that they're not and try to make themselves into something they're not. And they're trying to like dip a toe into the civil rights movement anytime they get in a kerfuffle, or anytime like they just try to like act like they're back marching in the civil rights movement and that they're one of the famous civil rights leader like MLK, and they're not. And this was her defense today when she was asked about it on CNN.
Congresswoman, you are now facing a federal charge, though. Are you afraid of what's going to transpire now?
You fight on, you fight on, you fight on, you fight on. When your government is doing you wrong, you fight on, oh, you fight on.
Yeah. That was her response. That was her chance to go out and explain her actions, or at least set up a defense. Hey, I was just in the mix trying to stop it, and I didn't mean to bump the federal officer, and that was on me. I saw it getting out of hand. Like, at least try. But when you're going to try to sing like that and expect people to be like, oh, let her go. Let her go. She's got the voice of an angel. Yeah, but she has the soul of an asshole. And she's proving that. And, you know, again, media carrying the water for her. Yeah, mission ready, man. I couldn't believe what I was seeing and hearing either. I honestly, the first time I saw it, not gonna lie, I thought it was a deep fake. I thought it was like an AI thing. I thought somebody just was having a blast with it. And then when I saw it elsewhere, oh yeah. When I saw it elsewhere, I was befuddled. Lost Warner says, she spent 2 hours on a computer with the camera. Oh, yeah. No, she was practicing for that in the shower everywhere she could. Jersey Joe, I have changed my mind after hearing her response. I hope they play that during the trial. I hope that gets played during the trial. Enter that as Exhibit A. Because she's not denying it. She's going to say that she's going to keep fighting. I mean, let me pull a page out of mainstream media's book. Does that mean, is that a threat to more federal officers because she's threatening to keep fighting? Is that what that is? Is that a threat? Because it could be a threat. She said fight. It could be a threat. See how ridiculous that is? By the way, and I had one person that I know comment on my little purple pen. I couldn't find this earlier. And I had a little bit of a freak out looking for it. And let me tell you why before everyone gives me a hard time. A couple weeks ago, I was looking for a pen, and my beautiful little daughter said, oh, here's one, Dad. And I was just writing something down real quick. And I was like, oh, thanks. And she doesn't watch the show. She doesn't know politics. She doesn't pay attention. I don't want her to. She's 11. Like, just raise with good morals and be a good kid. And that's all you got to worry about right now. And she goes, and you can use that for your show. So you better believe that this pen has been on my desk for the show ever since then. So if you see me use the purple pen, understand that my beautiful daughter let me have this. So moving on. What do I have? 20 minutes. I don't have time, but I'll start it anyhow. Biden, I will say one of the most interesting thing that's come out between this whole Biden original sin with Jake Tapper, the cancer part of the story, is that there are allegations that Hunter Biden was making decisions for the president. Think about that for a second. Jake Tapper said it himself. He unloads on Hunter Biden as a demonstrably unethical, sleazy, and prone to horrible decisions. And in one of the interviews here, I'm looking for it because I know I have it here somewhere. He's being interviewed with his co-writer. I can never remember that little weasel's name. And they're talking about Hunter, and he said, "Yeah, Hunter was involved in decision making in the White House." And I said, "Holy shit, what?" Like, it's bad enough he was in the White House. We know he had access to things that Hunter Biden should not have access to. I mean, this is a guy who, at the time, the president wouldn't even acknowledge his daughter. This is a guy who had a severe narcotics addiction. This is a guy who threw away a gun in the trash. This is a guy who was videotaping himself with prostitutes like crazy. Not a good guy. And this is only the stuff that we know about. Let me rephrase that. This is only stuff that we can confirm. This doesn't include like the car on the Texas border that had his ID in it and a whole bunch of coke, yada, yada, yada. The fact that Hunter was even allowed in the White House was horrible. The fact that there are allegations, and it doesn't shock me. Look, we all know for at least the last year that Joe Biden was not making any decisions. We can all agree to that. That's a fact. I mean, at this point, I think that should be stipulated in any conversation because he wasn't. He was gone. And we know that. We all knew that then, but now everybody's finally acknowledging it. So, okay, it brings up the auto pen discussion. Did Hunter Biden use the auto pen system to sign his own pardon? I don't know. And the whole idea of this cancer, and really, the Secret Service hated it. I could have guaranteed you that. Lost Runner in the chat room said Secret Service hated his presence there. I bet you everybody did. Even people close to the Bidens, because from what I've heard from a few inside tracks about Hunter is he is an asshole to everybody. He's a bully, he's a jerk, and he is absolutely, if you grew up in a medium-sized city and you like had that kid whose dad was the mayor and he always threw that in your face, that was Hunter, except instead of being 7, he was 50. Oh, the other wonderful thing about Hunter Biden is after his brother died, he hooked up with his brother's wife. Just wonderful guy. But it brings up the question on the auto pen. It brings up the question of who was making the decisions over and over again. Then you add the cancer on top of it. And look, I know this has been beaten into the ground. I know everyone's talked about cancer over and over and over again. But the simple fact of the matter is, I have yet to see one doctor, oncologist, who has said officially, like, 100% can metastasize this quick. He hasn't had a PSA test or a colonoscopy since he was 71. The President of the United States of America, you're not going to run full-blown blood tests? And I don't know what the standard is. I don't know what the standard is on that. But it seems kind of stupid to me to not be running all the blood tests to see if something is popping up. Lost Wanderer. I can neither confirm nor deny that I've heard those in the White House grounds. I will not ask you anymore. So all of this has come out. Everything has come out so far. And there's more. And again, the whole point of releasing Joe's cancer diagnosis now is to push past the original sin book, because that's become the leading story, and the Bidens and the Democrats don't want that because it is so unethical and illegal and wrong for other people to be making decisions about our republic that are not the elected leaders that we elect. There is so many goddamn things wrong with it. And the Democrats are so afraid of this albatross around their neck because, and it will be, it's not going away. So they release the cancer thing, because what happens right away when you release cancer? Everyone's like, well, you can't talk about him now. The man's dying of cancer. No, No, you could feel bad the man's dying of cancer. You could feel bad about that. That doesn't change what happened. Plenty of people die in prison after getting cancer. You don't just get excused of your crimes because you are sick. And now the media is in full-blown panic mode. And I've never I've never seen it like this. And it's amazing to me to just watch them all implode, run in circles, punch each other in the face, punch themselves in the face, step on their dick. The media has just been a hot mess after hot mess after hot mess. And even, I'm going to give you a warning right now. What I'm about to show you is graphic and maybe disturbing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
When is Jake Tapper going to write a book about the cognitive decline of the person who is in charge?
First and foremost, Joy Behar asking for accountability for anybody is just the funniest thing in the world. Here's a woman who somehow dodged the whole blackface thing, which made me laugh because everybody else got hung up on it, but because she was on the good team, she was a liberal, she got to duck it. But they've also, how many times has The View had to come on air and say, we had a story yesterday where we said blah, 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 blah. And one of our jowls accidentally muttered this word, and now we have to apologize because that's not true. By the way, aren't they on the network that the president just had to step down because of a humongous lawsuit? That's a different story. So you have people like, oh God, what was his name? Joe Scarborough come out and say about his comment where he said, I was obviously wrong about, the version of Biden we have now is the best Biden ever. First of all, there's never been a best version of Joe Biden. I think we can all agree on that, right? Joe Biden has always just been like a fly, like an annoying fly. He was a bully when he was in the Senate. He was a jerk. He married Jill after his wife and daughter were killed in a car accident, and she was the nanny. And they had pictures of her sitting on his lap when she was young. Joe Biden's never been a great guy. There's never been a best version of Biden. Everyone who keeps saying, oh, he's a sweet old grandpa or an old Uncle Joe and yada, yada, yada. This is the man who Jersey Joe brought up the other night, said the eulogy from Robert Byrd. This is a man who said he didn't want his kids to grow up in a racial jungle. This is a man who said, you can't go into a 7-Eleven if you do, or Dunkin' Donuts. It was Dunkin' Donuts, pardon me. You can't go into a Dunkin' Donuts if you don't have an Indian accent. Joe has always been an asshole. And I know they softened his image to be a hokey old Joe when he was the VP. Oh, that's just Joe. Oh, just Joe. This is the Joe who's been caught on hot mics numerous times before he lost his marbles, before the choo-choo train he took to work every day left the station. He's been caught on hot mics saying all these dumb things. Hey, Barack, this is a real big fucking deal, right? When he was talking about announcing Obamacare, stuff like that. So Joe was never a great person, and the media trying to somehow change or somehow sidestep all of this because he now has cancer shows you the integrity of the media, because they're taking this smokescreen and running with it and holding it up to your nose and saying, look at this, look at this, look at this. Ignore the auto pen. Ignore the fact that the elected president wasn't running the government for the last year. Ignore all of those things. Ignore all the deaths in Afghanistan. You just keep ignoring all that and pay attention to the poor Joe now. Like, look, I mean, this is a family picture, and look how sweet they are. This is from Easter. Look at Joe sitting there in his suit and tie. Oh, wait a minute. This is the seat where they put it out. Everyone said, what the hell's going on? Where's Joe? Yeah. You could have been asking, where's Joe, while he's sitting right in the room, because mentally Joe was gone for years, and we knew it. We knew it. We knew it. We knew it. And there is and I thought I had one. There's 100 different videos out there of compilations of Joe gaffes, and they're not just gaffes, they're incredibly horrible, and we all knew about it. I remember when I don't know if I say her last name wrong. It's Lanier. She writes for Red State, I believe. And she was the first one. Do you remember the whole Las Vegas incident? She was the first one to report that, where they had to go to the hospital for Joe. And they never talked about it. They said he had COVID. And then when he got off the plane, and by the way, Air Force One went back east as fast as it would go. There were people on that plane saying it was shaking. He got off the plane and had to be helped into the SUV to go back to the White House. Right? Joe was a hot mess. We all knew it. As I said before, and I'll say again, Jake Tapper is gaslighting America into, yes, Jennifer Van Leer. Thank you. Her name escaped me. She's the first one I saw it on. She was the first one to report it. I don't care what anyone else says. I was on the internet like a hawk that day because we were all on Joe watch because Joe had been a hot mess for a few days. And she was the first one to talk about it. Anyhow, so now they're all going after Jake Tapper, and Jake Tapper is just trying to make media have some relevancy again. Look, they beat us all. We were just really bad at our jobs, right? And how they're doing that is they're slamming the Bidens. Well, the Bidens hid all this. The Bidens hid that. The administration did this. The administration did that. And the administration went, we have a legacy to worry about. I mean, Hunter can't even get a job, which, by the way, it may be hooking up with Jill. That's just a prediction. I don't know if it's going to happen, but if Joe passes, who knows? I'm just saying he's got a history. You can't count him out. If there's one thing that dude has proven that he loves is widows that he's related to. I know. I'll tell you right now, if anything's going to make me famous right now, it's going to be that comment because people are about to be pissed. Oh, yeah, give me a complete list of Biden's, racist comment. Oh, yeah, no. Joe was infamous for them. Infamous. And now the cancer thing, they're trying to tamp it down, but we can't let it go. Like they want the Biden story to move on so bad and how bad the administration was. Yeah, I'm not repeating that, but you're right. I refuse to say the word even at a quote. That's just personal to me. I just don't do it. But yeah, no, Joe was a monster. We all know Joe was a monster. He was not a good person. And by the way, speaking of gaffes, Joe admitted he had cancer accidentally back in 2022? I think it was in Massachusetts. I think it was on the South Shore in Massachusetts. It was some construction site that he was like doing a speech at, and he accidentally said he had cancer. And everyone was like, oh, it's a Joe gaffe. He's fine. He doesn't have cancer. And then people were starting to see bruising in the same spot on his veins, which, if you don't know, can be where you get an IV to get some sort of medication or treatment. So there's a chance they knew all along that Joe had cancer, which brings me back to my initial point when I heard this story. We were talking about the first time Joe ran, that they were going to 25th him so Kamala could be president. I'm the first woman president. I'm the first black woman president, blah, 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 right? Check all those boxes. This tells you why the fight was going on, as I said before, when all that was when the governors, including Waltz, who eventually stepped in, went to the White House, said, Joe's fine. Everyone, Joe's fine. He's great. He's sharp. He's the sharpest I've ever seen him. He's healthy. He's great. He's like an ox. Then we see the pictures of him falling all over the beach because he can't even walk in sand. We're like, yeah, that guy's sturdy. Sturdy as a sumbitch, right? And then we heard of all the infighting that was going on between Kamala's people and Biden's people around this time. Them trying to get Joe to drop. Joe obviously making less and less appearances, as we know. And it comes out that he has brain cancer has metastasized into his bones, which from what every doctor I've ever heard of so far that's spoken about this, oncologist, does not happen overnight. And I will tell you right now, I am of the mind that they absolutely knew that Joe had cancer. And they were still going to run him and not tell the American people. Just like they did the basement campaign the first time. They limited who he was around. COVID was the best thing that happened to the Democrats. The best thing that happened to the Democrats. That was the best excuse to keep Joe hidden. So I will say here, I do not believe them when they say they didn't know. I have no reason to believe them when they say they didn't know. They wanted him to drag her over the line like a damn donkey, like a burro, a beast of burden. They wanted him to drag her over the line knowing he was going to have to step down. I mean, I hate to say it, it's just what it was. I mean, that is, I don't feel bad for Joe because of all the shitty things that he did. But that's horrible to do to somebody you allegedly love. And that's what Jill and Hunter were going to do. They were going to push him until he died to get Kamala over the line. And Jill's going to run for office. I don't know where. She might be the vice president for the Democrats. But yeah. Even his own former medical advisor said he probably had the cancer at the beginning of his presidency. It's not new. It's not there. This isn't a shock. Then you have people like Hakeem Jeffries who say it's not appropriate to be discussing the Biden cover-up because of the cancer. By the way, Dollar Store Obama is the worst at this. He is, and I was talking to somebody on social media today. I said, Nancy Pelosi wouldn't have made any of these mistakes. She would have had all of this under wraps. They wouldn't be a mess. Like, as much as you might not like Nancy Pelosi, and I absolutely despise Nancy Pelosi, she was effective in her role as speaker with the Dems because she kept shit together. She kept shit in charge, and she was in charge. Jeffries doesn't. Everything's bombastic. Everything is, I mean, he really is dumber than a box of rocks. I'm 100% convinced. But they're trying to groom him to be this Democratic leader, and he's not. He's just not that guy. He's not Obama. And he said, yeah, it's inappropriate to discuss it. Why? Why is it inappropriate to discuss it? I know why. You don't want to discuss it because it makes the Democrats look like a hot mess of dirty, underhanded, seedy, disgusting, horrible human beings. And guess what? They are. They are everything. And they're proving that. They're everything they keep trying to tell you Trump is. Right? They're so worried about these illegals being sent back overseas. They didn't give a shit about people getting fired or jailed for not taking the shot or for being outside during COVID. Americans that actually have due process. Illegals have due process too. Yeah, when they get arrested for a local crime. Immigration's very differently. And that's what it is. That's just what it is. Oh, yeah, there it is. I knew I was looking for this. I couldn't remember earlier, but yeah. Jennifer Van Leer, and I can post this right now because this is the first time that I saw it on her original post. July 22nd, 2024 is when she posted it. Reporters at Red State have also confirmed the story with LVMPD. This is about Joe going to the hospital. And I wanted to give her credit because I've seen other people trying to take credit for that, and I watched that happen in real time. She 100% reported that. So yeah, this is what they're more afraid of. And BZ just said it, and I'll show it in a second, is that the Democrats are pure evil. And they keep making themselves out to be. You attack federal agents, you completely, fraudulently, disgustingly pull the wool over the country to have somebody sitting in the office saying that he's the president and other people are running it. And I don't mean advisors. I mean other people making the decisions. You don't need an auto pen whatsoever if you're the one making the decisions because you're there to sign it. And I'll tell you right now, if they came out and said, oh, he's got rheumatoid arthritis or something so bad he can't hold a pen, fine. put your thumbprint next to it. You can do something to prove that it's you. But that's not what they did. They went with an auto pen. They went with a smoke screen. It was like bullpen by committee. It was a group of people making decisions for the president. Jake Tapper, who covered up for it, tried to gaslight America into what they gaslit America about. Now they're all admitting it, and it looks so horrible for the Democrats and the Bidens that they released the cancer. Oh yeah, now Joe's got cancer. Stop talking about it, please. Joe's just a feeble old man. Stop talking about it, please. No, we're not going to stop fucking talking about it because you defrauded the fucking nation by having a man who is mentally, he should have been 25th. That's what it's there for. We have a process for it. And maybe, just maybe, Kamala's the reason they didn't 25 him. Because she's that much of a mess, and that would have damaged Democrats maybe even further than what you saw out of this administration. This will eventually go away. It may take an election cycle before everyone's like, oh, we're the new Democrats. We didn't do that anymore. Yeah. But Kamala being president, even for 2 years, would have damaged them so bad. It probably would have doomed them to not winning the office for 20 years. And they would have, by the way, exposed what a complete moron she is. Folks, that's it for me. I had a lot more stories I wish I got to, but I couldn't. I'll be back Monday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. Don't forget to check out everybody else on SHR Media. Tomorrow is Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific. You're going to have Mission Ready Men with Big E. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. And, of course, Friday, 6 p.m., 9 on the East Coast. You have the River of Common Sense with my friend Jersey Joe. Make sure you check out all those great shows. Please like and subscribe. And go to our friends at KLRN. Just on X, go to KLRN. They're always live there. That's when you catch all the live shows. And, of course, Ricky Robinson's on there, but the Lost Wanderer show's on there. Sunday at 8 p.m. Make sure you check that out. 8 p.m. on the East Coast. That's it for me. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I hope you have a great weekend. Have a safe holiday. I might actually be off next Monday. I haven't decided that yet. It all depends on how good the cookout is. I'll talk to you.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat.